Last week on Amy's Vlogs.
She goes through hell on a day-to-day basis.
My sister goes through hell on a day-to-day basis. That's not something a lot of older sisters say about their younger sisters, but it's true for mine. And the reason for that is not because my sister is in high school or gets bullied or has a hard time with work or any of that. It's solely because she has diabetes. And so it's nothing that she can actually control. I know that diabetes is a common thing around American households. A lot of people have distant family members that have diabetes. But there are actually two types of diabetes, and the one that you don't hear about a lot is actually type 1, which is the one my sister has. It's the one that she has absolutely no control over. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this today. I actually have no plan about what I'm going to say, but we're going to get through this together. So, my sister is diabetic. She has type 1 diabetes, which does not mean that she has eaten too much sugar and is obese and has to take pills or lose weight. It means that her body does not function properly. In a normal body, we have insulin, which helps regulate our blood sugar and helps the pancreas break down foods. When you have type 1 diabetes, that insulin is not there. The pancreas does not work right, and so your body cannot produce insulin itself. So you have to constantly be injecting yourself with insulin, or else you'll go into shock. It's not a pretty thing. I've seen it happen, believe me. So not having insulin means that my sister's blood sugar will either spike or drop severely low, and you never ever want your blood sugar to be that jumpy. Probably a lot of you have experienced low blood sugar when you haven't eaten for a little while and you just start to feel really shaky and just not feel well. So when she goes through that, it's like that amplified by 90%. And because she's also in high school and she is still growing and is a teenager, all of her hormones make everything even more severe. So it's very, very hard to regulate all of her blood sugar levels and insulin levels and everything that's going on with her body right now. So she ends up sick a lot because when you're diabetic and your body is not functioning properly, you're more susceptible to other things like colds or the flu or dehydration or any of that. I'd like to emphasize, though, that diabetes is not a contagious disease. You can't contract it randomly. It's mostly hereditary. In my sister's case, we are not sure where hers came from because we have not had any recent cases of diabetics in our family. It's actually funny because right before my sister was diagnosed with diabetes when she was about 2, my cat had just been diagnosed with diabetes also. When my sister started experiencing the symptoms, my mom went to the doctor and told them basically she has diabetes because she already had seen these symptoms in my cat. So that's kind of a weird anecdote for that. What's that? I changed and got a better camera angle? Yeah, I did. So I got interrupted filming earlier, and it's 11:30. This vlog is going to be really late, but I just wanted to finish talking. So, in order to treat type 1 diabetes, usually you inject yourself with insulin a couple times a day after you eat, and you always have to regulate your blood sugar, which means you have to prick your finger every time you eat or throughout the day to test your sugar levels. So you have to put your blood through this little strip, and it reads how high your blood sugar is, right? So what my sister has is this pump, which sits around her waist, and it's like this little plug thing, and it has a needle in it, and you stick it in a fatty tissue, so like your arm, your stomach, your butt, your leg, and it's this little sticky round like sticker thing, right? And inside is in the middle is a little tiny tube where the needle goes. So the needle, you stick it in, and the needle goes in, and then you pull the needle out, and then the tube continues to stay in along with the sticky sticker part. So that constantly feeds her insulin throughout the day because she has a little, it's called pump, and it's a little monitor, and she can monitor like how much she puts in each day, so she doesn't have to constantly be injecting herself. This sucks a lot because a lot of diabetics, since they have to prick their fingers like 4 to 5 times at least throughout the day, probably more, 8, 9, 10, their fingers get very calloused, and then after a while, after years living with diabetes, you can't really prick your fingers anymore because You keep having to set the pressure on the needle up higher and higher, and each time you have to hit your fingers harder and harder because they're so calloused. And after a while, they just don't bleed because the calluses are so thick from all the needles. And this also sucks because the pump sites are the same thing. After a while, you get scar tissue and you get bruised muscles, and you can hit nerves. And so my sister constantly has to like change her site all the time because it falls out, and nerves and bruises, and it gets just horrible for her. So this is in no ways a means to scare you about diabetes. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it. And it's kind of an issue that's important to me and important to my family because we believe that in the next few years there will be a cure, but it's kind of overlooked by a lot of other epidemics in our nation. And especially in children, it's a really hard thing to grow up with, especially, as I said before, when you go through puberty, your hormones change, and it's just a really hard thing to deal with. So I guess this is kind of an awareness video, but also to explain to you what I meant earlier in my last video. And that is all I have to say to you today. I'm sorry that this vlog is very impromptu and not a very good camera angle and all that jazz, and it's going to be a little bit late. I mean, I still filmed it today, but it's not going to be up on YouTube on the right day, unfortunately, because I've just been gone all day. But I will hopefully have something better for you tomorrow, and I will see you tomorrow. Good night, Internet.